Alright, so I said it's not at spot 0, 0 that you want your array to equal a new number, but at row and at column, where row is 0, column is 0 for the first loop, then this loop changes your column to 1, but still row, and so on. So, in doing so, it should, well, we haven't told it to print off the array again, so after we fill it with new values, print off it again, and so here's our initial array, and here, uh-oh, made a little error. Alright, hopefully you can catch my error. What did I do wrong up here? I found a random number and I set every value in it equal to a new random value. So we need to do a little bit more. Okay? So let's go ahead and move this so that my random number is equal to every column and every row. I get a whole new random number. Okay? Now when we run it, okay, that time it was just random one row. So here we go. Here's all the random zeros. And here it is, all random numbers between -5 as your smallest, +5 as your largest. Okay? So now the last step for you to figure out on your own is to find the sum of each row and print off which row has the highest sum. So, little comment, find which row has the largest sum. Okay, now I'll give you a little hint, or a couple hints actually. When you find the sum of each row, you need to almost kind of keep track of two things, the sum of the row and which row it was. So keep that into the back of your mind. Also, when you are doing this, when you have like a variable for, let's call it max row, if you set it equal to 0, the problem is if my row had a bunch of all negative numbers and I took the sum of that row, the row wouldn't actually be greater than 0. So now I'm storing 0 as my max row, but my biggest row was actually a negative number. So you kind of almost have to figure out a way to calculate how many there is in your first row. Then you can kind of let your max row equal the sum from your first row, and then go through every other row saying, hey, is there any other rows that are bigger than my first row? So it's almost not super efficient to just have one for loop, but in this case you almost need two for loops. And that's one way of doing it. You could do it other ways as well. But when you are done, it should look something like this. Okay? So here I've got my original array, nice and looking pretty, you see. Here's my filled in array, nice and pretty. See, I don't have the commas at the end. And then this is for testing purposes, where I'm saying row 0 equals all these values, and my max row is right here, 2. Okay, and it's at row 2. So the sum is 2 and the row is 2. So if we run it again, I'm sure we'll get different values. Yep. So my sum here, or my max row, is row 0. Okay? All right, I wish you guys the best of luck. Good job. Or I wish you the best of luck. Not good job yet. When you finish it, good job.